Shem, we're back. All right, so what are we doing today? We got Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, my lord. What do we have on today's agenda? The Yesod of Netzach. The bonding element of endurance. I don't think today's going to be as dramatic. I don't think today's going to be as dramatic as the past couple weeks. But I don't know. I don't know, because I'm thinking about everything that we've covered during this week of Netzach. I'm trying to think about it. Everything that we have put out there. And how it's relative to today. What? I feel like each day this week we've covered a different kind of endurance. I think that's the point, right? It's not necessarily that we're covering different forms of endurance as much as different. No, we are covering different forms of endurance. What did we talk about yesterday? We talked about we got into how I was capable of enduring the traumatic experiences that were related to my explorations of Los Angeles and Dallas, Texas, in relation to Abraham's journey, the beginning of Abraham's journey with his father. And how those experiences of ours, the synchronistic experience, well, synchronistic or not, but those experiences that we have, traumatic or not, are all set up by you. In that we're learning how to stop taking credit for things. Stop taking credit and stop giving credit. To recognize that you, my Lord, are the puppet master for everything. And that those experiences that you put us through, for however long they may last, some being short, shorter than others, something longer than others. They're all in preparation for what hasn't happened yet. That we don't know about, but you know about. So let's say that in relation to everything we've covered with Netzach so far, taking into consideration that this is day 6 of 7 of the week of Netzach, that you have been overtly and covertly preparing us for today. And everything that we're doing today, everything we're going to cover today, is preparing us for what we're going to start going over tomorrow, so we can bring it into actualization. Because tomorrow is going to be the Malkut of Netzach, which I know is typically associated with the word dignity. Keeps coming back to my mind, because I'm pretty sure that Rabbi Jacobson associates Malkuth with the concept of dignity, but it's more than that. Because Malkuth is the kingdom, and that's the lowest world where everything is actualized. So let's kind of go on our own with this. Where Yesod of Netzach, the bonding of endurance, is that this is our moment to take into consideration everything that we've done over the past 6 days, over the previous 5 days rather. And how we can deepen our connection with our past experiences so that moving forward, once we're done with today and we move into tomorrow, then we can start actualizing all of those experiences in relation to all the teachings, in relation to the knowing that everything we're doing right now is in preparation for that which hasn't happened yet. In the sense that so let's take into consideration that I love taking things into consideration. I think it's not impossible to consider that I just fucking love saying, hey, let's take this into consideration. I like considering multiple considerations at the same time. So we'll take this consideration and we'll put this on the back burner so we can consider some other things before we consider it all at the same time. I'm being reminded of when April used to say, when I used to say quantum a lot, just because I like saying it, and then she called me out on it. I think I just like saying quantum. I do. I like saying consideration too. What I want to do, what I'm thinking, what I'm seeing in my mind, is how we relate the count of Omer to the rest of the year. I don't know if I thought about this last year. I took this into consideration, but I love how you make yourself laugh. Me too. Because although the year although the year begins with Rosh Hashanah is actually the second half of the year. So Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of the Hebrew New Year, but Passover is the beginning of the Jewish New Year, which is the second half of the Hebrew year. It's a little bit confusing, which is why I'm taking my time with this. So the work we're doing over the count of Omer is essentially refining us and preparing us for, because when does Omer end? It ends in the third month of Sivan at the beginning. Once we get to the month of Sivan, which is only a couple weeks away, two weeks and 2 days. Once we get into Sivan, then we only have Sivan, Tammuz, Av, and Elul. Wait, I should have counted on my fingers. So we got 4 full months left to the year 5785, which ends with Rosh Hashanah. Oh man. Dogs. I'm just trying to weigh this out in my head because I know what I'm seeing, but I'm trying to think of how to quantify it. It goes again, saying quantum. A derivative of quantum. So the point of Omer is to refine the inner self to perfect the outer self. So it's almost like what I'm seeing, by the time we get into Sivan and we get to Shavat and we start going through the rest of the year, it's as if, this is what it's showing me in my mind, it's as if these last 4 months of the year we're going to spend integrating everything that we're doing right now so that by the time we hit Rosh Hashanah, that more perfected version of ourselves that we're working on bringing out with all this work is going to go into the new year of Rosh Hashanah with Rosh Hashanah. For those 6 months, but don't get frustrated. Well, I was going to say that Rosh Hashanah brings us into winter. spring and fall and winter. So it's not like we're actually doing anything. This feels like, I don't know. If you want my personal opinion, I feel like this would be much better done during the winter. This way we bring this part out over the spring and summer. But I mean, that's just me. Although, well, I'm trying to think back to last year, right? So, because last year was the first time that I observed the count of Omer. And then what happened after Omer? I worked. I was doing the same thing I was doing now. I was working on the more basic forms of everything that I'm working on right now. And I suppose that I guess it really depends on the intention that we set. Because I don't know, this year the intention was just to do the same thing I did last year, which is just, let's get through this. Let's just see what happens when we get to the end. So I don't think it's too late to set the intention that by the end of this Shabbat, that I'll have a better idea of how to approach next year's count of Omer. Because last year I was just doing my best to keep up with everybody else, just so I can experience it. This year how do you say it? This year I'm trying to take more of the steering wheel on my own. Not necessarily. This year I'm letting you do most of the, I'm doing my best to let you be more in control than last year. Because the year's schedule isn't all that difficult to get the hang of. Because last year I was using the calendar on Chabad.org to keep up with and know what we got to be doing every single day. This year I'm just going off of memory for the most part. Speaking of endurance, yeah, we're right. The endurance to keep up with all this. 'Cause it's not a little. Because how many times did I go through Torah last year? 2 or 3 times. I mean, I have to go through it again because there are other things that I'm trying to integrate into my head, into my scheduling. But I think these are the big ones. Bonding. How do we use integrating bonding? It's the same words. It means the same thing. In a sense. Because the more that we endure through your yearly schedule for us, the closer we become to you. The more that we bond, you and I. What I'm thinking about right now, I can't imagine this is going to get much more exciting than this. But speaking of the bonding, the relationship between the concept of bonding and integrating. I feel like we're slowly integrating everything that we picked up over this past week. Well, everything that we picked up and let go of. Because I know we touched on some really sensitive subjects, which is good, because letting go of all that shit was opening space to make room for new stuff. New ideas, new habits. Because ultimately what I've been seeing, and especially in relation to what, I listen to music on these things, so I'm in my own little flow, don't worry about it. Especially in relation to this coming 7-year anniversary since we started all this. Because the message that I keep getting is that once we get to the first quarter moon in Virgo, which is around Savan 6, Savan 7, which is June 3rd, which is the day I started writing back in 2018. That once we get to that point, everything prior to that, we're done with it. It's kind of like I'm seeing a crab molting, and I'm seeing a snake shedding its skin. And the words coming to my mind are saying that think of all of my past life experiences from 2018 all the way back to the very beginning is what I'm shedding. In that person that I was, that life that I had, that person I was trying to be, that person I wanted to be, don't even worry about that anymore. That's all done. It's all done and processed, and all the paperwork's filed. All the receipts are fucking organized. Organized and categorized too. It's very meticulous. In such a way that once we get to the beginning of the 7th year, then it's just a matter of moving forward. Don't even worry about looking back anymore. Looking back is just not even, it's not necessarily necessary. In the sense that we don't have to continue looking back and go, oh, I feel bad about that. I wish things were different. Nope. Everything is signed, sealed, stamped, approved, ready to go. I'm hearing everything that you've done over the past 7 years has been in preparation for everything that's about to happen for the next 7 years. Now, I say 7 years, but a more accurate representation of that would be to say that we're technically in the end of the 6th year. The 7th year begins on June 3rd, which is Savan 6, Savan 7. The first quarter Virgo moon. So it's not like we're done with the 7th year. We're just beginning the 7th year, which is important because when we look when we look at Torah laws, everything moves in 7-year cycles. So we're almost at the end of the first 7-year cycle. That's not going to be until next June. By the end of next June, then we'll be moving into the 8th year. But this is an important one because this is the one where it's like, I just said we don't have to worry about looking back anymore. That's true and it's not true. Because come on. So annoying. Stop. The phone bounces around in my back pocket, then changes the song on me. Right. So this year, it's not that we don't have to look back. I mean, everything prior to when I started writing, we don't have to worry about that shit no more. That's all done. So, to summarize the past 6.5 years, we can say that the last 6.5 years has been not strictly, but was used for the sake of reconciling the previous 37 years that came before it. 37 and a half. So that this next year we're going to spend going through the 7 years worth of journals and reconciling the past 7 years, 6.5, 7 years. So that when we get to year 8, oh shit, this never fucking ends, man. So that by the time we get to this time next year, there's nothing left to do with the past. All the past should be done. At that point, I'll be 45. So by the time I'm 45, I will no longer have to do all this past life traveling and healing and reconciling, because I'll be perfect. As perfect as humanly possible, as much as you can allow it, right? Because we can see, because of all the work that we're doing right now with the count, all the work that we're doing right now with the Count of Omer, I'm picking up on the trend that, yeah, I gotta change that. That each day is kind of making me having to take me back in time to life experiences that I haven't yet taken into consideration with you, God. In the ways where it's, I'm thinking, if I knew then what I knew now, things would be different, right? That's what people say. But that's not true. If I knew then what I knew now, I would tell myself, don't do fucking nothing different. Don't do anything different. Just do everything exactly the same. Don't change anything. Because it's perfect. You have no idea how perfect it is. And, or, you know what? Fuck it. If you want to try to change something, I double dog dare you to try to change something. But that's because I don't believe in free will. And I believe that the future's set in stone. So, I'm talking to past Derek now. So if you think you can change something, I dare you to do it. But I don't think you can. Because you don't even know what comes tomorrow. But then again, if you knew what I knew back then, and technically you do, because in a sense, we knew this was going to happen. We knew this was going to happen. Maybe not to the minute details, but even if we go back to like fucking elementary school, I knew this was all going to happen. I didn't know. I wanted to believe it, but the fact that I've been able to maintain the faith for this long, to endure life as I have, and still not let go and say, no, that's fucking impossible. It's never gonna happen. I can see the connection with today's count in my own way. I don't know how to put that into words though. You're putting it into words right now. Don't worry about it. You're doing a great job. It's not something that you're just gonna fucking blurt it out. It's one of those things where you gotta think. I'm seeing in my mind one of those guys. I don't know how to do this, but I'm thinking of one of those guys that make the model ships inside of a bottle. You gotta go piece by piece, very intricate. There's a really good analogy of Mashiach. I think it was from Rabbi Akiva, I think. And one of his contemporaries came to him and said, "When's Mashiach coming?" And he said, "He's here." He is? Where is he? Well, he's at the front gates of Rome. The front gates of Rome. There's so many people out there. How am I going to know it's him? He's at the front gates of Rome with all the sick people. You'll know him because everyone is changing their bandages, big chunks at a time. Mashiach is going to be the one who's doing piece by piece by piece. He's not rushing. He's taking his sweet ass time to make sure that every single teeny tiny little microbe is in the right spot. That's how you will know him. So don't think you're not getting it right because you're not getting it all out at once. You have to piece it all together, nice and slow. And also keep in mind, this is a good one. Is that last year, when you did this, you weren't doing it like this. You were only writing it down. But now take into consideration what we were saying before about how you put us into situations in the moment that don't necessarily bear their fruit until later down the line. And then we can look back and go, oh, good thing I fucking did that. Good thing this is your second count of Omer. Because now, all the work that you did last year, and it may not have seemed all that significant, but I bet you if we went back to the books and we started reading every single day of the count and what you were writing and what you were feeling and what you were experiencing and what you were processing, that you'll see how what we're doing right now is necessarily the product of all of that. And next year when we do this, we'll be that much more efficient at it. Because instead of focusing so much on everything preceding 2018, predominantly, we'll be able to focus, I don't want to say exclusively, but almost exclusively on only 2018 to 2025, 26. So think of it, try to imagine this exact time next year. If things are going the way that you show them to me, the only thing we're focusing on, the primary focus of next year, is doing that 7 years of reflection. Where we're going through all the fucking journals. And we're gonna need a lot of fucking notebooks, and we're gonna need a lot of fucking pens. And it's going to be bringing up a lot of shit. I guarantee you. I'm already thinking about that first book. You know how I get when I read that first book. I get crazy. It's not crazy. It's like, it's hard to go back to that point because that first book was written when I was still living in my house. When I still had a semblance of a relationship with my son and my ex-wife and my friends and my job. Like that was a completely different life. Going back there is like, whoa! Because because when I read them, I have to go back to that place. It's literally, you're reliving it. And as I'm reading what I write, in my mind and in my feelings, I'm going back to that literal location and I'm there. I could see the house around me. I know what I'm talking about. I could see myself at my job when the writings that I did at the job, I'm there in my office. And I'm going back into that mindset, which is really challenging because back then, I didn't know then what I knew now. I had no idea what was coming. So when I'm writing stuff down back then, I don't know what's going to happen the next day. I don't know what's going to happen at the end of the day. But when I read this shit, it's like falling back into the illusion of where I was at. But once I'm able to process it and recognize you're not there anymore, you actually made it through this. Not only did you make it through this, you killed it. You knocked it out of the fucking park. Once I can get into that mindset, then that's when you come through and show me how you put that all together for me to get to the next point. Well, it sounds like you have it pretty much under control then. Right. Conceptually, I have it all under control. Logically, I know exactly what's going to happen. It's just emotionally, spiritually, mentally, and even physically, I have to go back to that, which is going to be incredibly draining. I have attempted this project twice over the last 2 years. I attempted to do this, the Heshvan, last Heshvan, which was around like November, the end of the month following the month of Rosh Hashanah. And for that entire, I kept up with it for that month, and I got 2 years into it. I got up to, I think I almost got into the journals of 2020. Like, I think where I left off was right at the end of 2019. Which wasn't impossible. It's just that the early books are like the fucking hardest ones. But each time I read them, they're less and less demanding on my person. Then I tried again this year, around at the same time, the month following the month of Rosh Hashanah. But I only got through the first month, the very first month, the first lunar month of that time back then, before I had a massive fucking breakdown. Because I started picking up on little details. Every time I read it, in the way that I read it, I always pick up on something that I didn't see before. And that last journey through, like I said, I only made it through the first month. But I made it through the first month before I had my breakdown. Which was a good breakdown. It was great. I fucking loved it. Every great breakthrough comes as the product of an even more massive breakdown. So it wasn't a bad thing. It was just like, okay, I can't do this right now. I have to go do something else. I got the medicine I needed out of this. Let's move on to something else. We'll put this on the back burner. But then that was before I had the idea that's before you gave me the idea for the 7 year of reflection, which made more sense in relation to Torah. And the sabbatical years, and the sabbatical year cycle. So just like the Count of Omer is 7 weeks, right? 49 days, 7 weeks. The sabbatical years and the Jubilee years, they also go in 7 year cycles. So each year has, I don't want to say generally necessarily a theme to it, but each year has a function and a purpose until we get to the 7th year, which is the sabbatical year, which is like, all right, no more work. Everyone's got to stop. No more planting, no more sowing. Even the land gets a sabbat. The land itself gets a year off. From an agrarian perspective, the land it's forbidden to plant, to sow. It's forbidden to work the animals. Even the animals have to take a year off. So people want to bust God's balls about a couple specific Torah laws. You know what? At least back then, 3,000 years ago, we had animal rights, we had property rights, and when I say property rights, what I mean is the land itself has rights. The animals have rights. The slaves have rights. Everyone's got rights. It's not. We're not just fucking raping the land to maximize profits. What ends up happening is, right, in the 6th year, which is what we're in right now, we do what we're supposed to do just like every other year. And again, from an agrarian perspective, but the concepts are the same. The concepts and the idea behind it and the logic behind it are relative and can correspond to whatever we want it to. So on the 6th year, we plant and we prepare for the coming 7th year. But then that begs the question, and this does get brought up. If you're not allowed to plant or do any kind of work on the 7th year, then how are you feeding yourself? Well, you're feeding yourself off of what we harvested from the 6th year. But what about the 8th year? Because if you didn't plant anything on the 7th year, then you have nothing to eat on the 8th year. We got that under control. And this is where bitahon and trust in God comes into play, because you say specifically, trust me, put your trust in me, put your faith in me, and I will make sure that on the 6th year, I will put a blessing on the land so that you reap 3 years worth of harvest. So that you have enough to cover yourself for the rest of the 6th year, enough food to cover yourself for the entire 7th year that you're not allowed to work. At the beginning of the 8th year is when you plant, and you have just enough food to keep you covered until it's ready to harvest the 8th year. That's a lot of trust. that's a lot of trust. But that's what we're building up to. That's the whole point of the Omer. Because although at least from the work I've done with Rabbi Jacobson, I want to get Rabbi Raskin's book for next year. That's what I want. Because I got a feeling I saw his book. It's a fucking novel. And it's specifically for the Count of Omer. So I know that he's going to go into a lot more depth than Rabbi Jacobson is. And Rabbi Raskin is a beast. He's an absolute beast. In a good way. A good beast. Like a fucking animal. Like he knows his shit. Not saying that Rabbi Jacobson doesn't know his shit, but Rabbi Raskin goes to a level that's... Okay? So next year I want Rabbi Raskin's book. But the point of Omer is for us to reconnect with ourselves, refine ourselves, but at the same time refine our relationship with you. Which is what we did okay, I remember that. So last year we did... last year was all about reconnecting with you on a more deeper, personal, intimate level. And I think that's a part of the relationship with God that gets left wanting more. What does that mean to have a personal relationship with God? Well, there's an intimate, emotional aspect to it too, which seems to be something that only Jews seem to recognize or understand and get into. Now, I don't know. I don't have too much experience with other Jews, so I don't know how deeply other people take it, or if they know how to take it, or if their rabbis are capable of getting that deep into it. Because the relationship that you and I have, I don't know if you have any other rabbis like this. Because technically in Torah it says that nobody's allowed to talk to you. It says it a few times that our ancestors, our fathers, they made it clear that Moses is the guy who's going to talk to you. No, thank you. We don't want that. So if it were to turn out that I'm the only Jew capable of having this back and forth with you, I wouldn't be surprised, because of the fact that it's a commandment, technically, that nobody talk to you. And what I'm saying, well, that makes sense too. That's the point of having a representative within the community who talks to you for everyone else. See, and we can do some refining too, because we don't necessarily need all those officials and all those magistrates and all the other mumbo jumbo, because of technological advances, because of how you've allowed technology to evolve since then. Because even if we take Rabbi Jesus into consideration, at the max, at his peak, he was capable of reaching 5,000 people at one time. But that's because you didn't have technology like you did today. So if you gave Rabbi Jesus a phone like I have, an internet connection, a Wi-Fi connection, and a YouTube channel, he could literally reach 8 billion people. And not even all at once either. Like that was 5,000 all at once. At least today, we can accumulate, right? Over the course of years, months and years and weeks and days and hours. We can cumulatively reach more people over a span of time than he could have at one time. So what I'm seeing, what's coming to my mind is like every Jew should be his own rabbi, his or her own rabbi. Well, realistically, every Jew should be his own rabbi, and every lady Jew, her husband should be her rabbi. And every couple's children, the parents should be their rabbis. Like every Jew's home should be their own personal synagogue. And realistically, that's the third temple. That's not saying that we don't have like a physical thing. I'm not saying that, but I mean the spiritual temple, the intangible, the incorporeal temple is the intellectual, spiritual, emotional structure that the physical structure is predicated on. So how do I want my sabbatical year, my first sabbatical year to look? So all right. Well, first I want to be able to understand. I want to be able to like conceptualize all this, what we're doing. Because all of the bigger community laws and the community standards, because I'm the only one, hypothetically speaking, I'm the only one doing this, let's just say, doing it my way, doing it your way. No one else's way, just doing it your way. Which your way just happens to align perfectly with my way. Or my way perfectly aligns with your way. And or at the same time. So be the change that you want to see, right? That's the predicable idea. I think it was Rabbi Reuven who said, he said months ago, he posted a small clip of one of his classes, and he was saying how Torah is the religion of the Jew. And he went so far, and I thought this was good, because he went so far. He's like, take the religious Jews out of the equation. Torah itself is our religion, is the religion of the Jew. So it's not necessarily a matter of doing to the letter everything that's in the written law, but being able to put yourself in a mental, emotional, and spiritual place where you can recognize how you are willing to do those things. Because the opportunity to do some of them, do some of the more detailed stuff may not necessarily be within the boundaries of the law, not the law, but within the boundaries of the law, within the boundaries of your own, the scope of your own personal life. But as long as you can put yourself in the position of the ancients and be able to go, yeah, I would do that. I can feel that. I understand that. I understand the logic behind it. I understand the wisdom behind it. I understand why that's a necessary way, a necessary perspective. You know what I'm thinking? I'm seeing the end. I'm seeing the final chapters of Dune Messiah, the second Dune book. After Paul, after Muad'Dib, he's in that nuclear explosion and his eyes are burnt out of his head. And he becomes blind. But even though he's blind, he's capable of seeing more than everybody else put together. He can still see things. But because Fremen law says that any blind person, anyone blinded, has to be ostracized out of the community, because the community is only as strong as its weakest link. And if a blind person can't not saying they can't, but in this particular scenario on Dune, a blind person is pretty much a detriment to everybody else, to the rest of the community. So the blind people are exiled, and they're to go walk off into the desert until they're eaten by a worm or they die of heat exhaustion. No resources are to be wasted on that person. It's a harsh rule, but it's a necessary one for the survival of the many. And although Muad'Dib was the Messiah, because he was blind, he took it upon himself to obey that law, and he left. And he went wandering off into the desert. To be eaten by Shai Harod. So in the same respect, so take for example, I love this. This is one of my favorites, but this particular law where it said, if your best friend, if your brother, if your son, or your wife, if any of those people who are closest to you, or your best friend, whatever, those people who are closest to you, if any of them ever come up to you and try to coerce you into worshiping and serving an alien god, an idol of any sort, then it's your obligation to put that person down, take their life right on the fucking spot, and show no pity. And the reason for that is for the sake of the community at large, because as it's written, word will spread of what you've done. And when people see you, they will fear you and they will know better. Than to pull that same kind of bullshit with you. But on a bigger scale, that person is a cancer. Be it your son, your wife, your best friend, your brother, that person is a cancer amongst the community. And if they're going to try to coerce you, then it's not impossible that they're going to try to coerce somebody else. If they try to coerce somebody else, then it's a matter until that cancer spreads. Because the whole idea is, the whole idea behind, come on, the whole idea, are you fucking with me? The whole idea behind what you were trying to do with the nation of Israel and all the laws, the societal laws, was to create almost a utopia in a sense. But not a utopia in the traditional sense that most people would consider a utopia. Because fear is a controlling element on the population. Fear of retribution for breaking the law. Like today, people aren't afraid to break the law. People break the law all the time. Even the politicians who make the laws break the laws that they make. Nobody gives a shit. But the beauty of Torah law is that there are examples that people are made examples of for the sake of the betterment of the whole. There's no exceptions. It's not like, oh, well, you know what? I'll let you slide this time. But if I let you slide, I gotta let that guy slide. If I let that guy slide, I gotta let this guy slide. The idea is that you're not supposed to be letting anyone slide. There's no, all right, I'll give you a reduced sentence because I know you. I know your cousin's brother's aunt's uncle. No, you fucked up and you're gonna fucking pay for it. Because you have to be made an example of, so that just in case there's anybody else thinking about doing the same thing that you did, they see word will spread and people will go, I don't want that to happen to me. So I'm not gonna do that. Because in the nation of Israel, you are the king. You're number one. Your word is the law. And anyone who breaks your law has to pay for it. And it's up to us to keep that law going, which is the point. You assigned us to be the regulators of the law. I'm reminded of, I'm seeing the book of Maccabees. After the forces of Antiochus had integrated themselves into Israelite community, and they were banning Torah observance. They were making the people give sacrifice to idols. They were publicly massacring children that were circumcised. But then once Mattathias got his posse together, there's a part where they're riding through town. I don't know if they were riding through Jerusalem or not, but they were riding through a town, a city, and they observed a Jew obeying the laws of Antiochus over your law, and they fucking killed him right on the spot. Because that's what the law says. The Maccabees were strict adherents to the law. But going back to what Rabbi Reuben was getting into, what he was talking about was that being able to not necessarily to do it, to take the action, but to recognize why that action is necessary. Because by killing that one Jew, by Mattathias killing that one Jew in the public square, it sent a message to everybody else. You better get your shit together, because the regulators have come to town. And we's about to clean this shit up. What's that song by the Regulators? Regulators! Mount up. Maccabees! So, what I'm doing is similar in is that, but similar in scope to what Darth Bane did. And hey, listen, these are my references. This is how I know how to relate all this stuff. Where the book I'm referencing, here's a book I'm referencing. If you know the book, then you know what I'm talking about. If not, you can read the book and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But in Path of Destruction, the Sith Order, the Sith religion, was at this time in Star Wars history, there was many Sith, but they had adapted the ways of the ancients how they wanted. They threw away some laws, they readapted some other laws, they changed laws, and they were just kind of doing things however they wanted to do it, not entirely unlike the rabbinical Orthodox congregation. Darth Bane, when he got inducted into the group, into the community, he was going his own path. Everybody was going this way, but he went that way. And everybody was busting his balls for going that way. You're wasting your time. Those ancients, if the ways of the ancients were so good, then why did they wipe themselves out? You're just wasting your time. Don't bother. We need to focus on this. And for a time, I can relate. For a time, he did attempt to integrate himself with the current way of Sith thinking. But he ended up getting his ass whooped. There was a point where he was like the top student in the school, in the academy. But when he tried to prove himself, that's when he found out. That's when he found out there's another dude who's far more advanced than him, and that dude whooped his ass. Because he was put into a situation where he had to unleash his full potential. And when he did that, it triggered the fuck out of him. So that when he got challenged by the top student, he was afraid to like really unleash because of what happened prior. He accidentally killed another student. He intentionally killed another student, which was against the rules, but it wasn't the right way. He lost his temper. He didn't have control over himself. So when the next guy challenged him, he was afraid to go that extra step because he didn't want to lose himself again. So he ended up getting his ass whooped. His legs broken, his arms broken, fucking teeth knocked out of his head. But after he recovered, he kind of had a realization, because at that point he was just pretty much ostracized by the rest of the group. Everyone thought, like, this fucking chump. And that's what they saw him as. They saw him as a chump. The teachers wouldn't even waste their time with him anymore. So he went from being one of the top students to being just a fucking nobody. And that actually worked out to his benefit, because since nobody wanted to fuck with him, that gave him time, and it gave him the realization that he was spending too much time trying to be like everybody else, when his strength was that he was not like anybody else. So he felt called back to studying the wisdom of the ancients and learning to understand their grasp of the dark side, their philosophies on the dark side, which is what was being neglected by the entire population of the other Sith that he was a member of. And eventually, the work he was doing led him down. You let him down. You're the force behind the force. But ultimately, that work he was doing led him down a path that would give him not just the advantage, but also the know-how and insights and wisdom on how to wipe the slate clean with everybody else and start the whole Sith Order fresh. Which ultimately became his plan, which was, these people are a fucking mockery to what you have, to your vision. Everyone has their own vision, which doesn't seem to be your vision. It seems to be someone else's vision, and that's the way it was. Now, in the second and third book, they deviate off of this a bit, but I understand why. It's not bad, but it's along his path where he realizes that the only proper way for the Sith to function and to thrive is for there to be as few of them as possible. Because the more that there are, the less consolidated the power is. And the less consolidated the power is, the more, the weaker that the collective is. Too many brains thinking about too many things. Everybody wants things to be their way, essentially. Well, that was more the folly of the ancients. Once we get into the Dark Brotherhood, where Bane was at, that's when they try to take the ideas of the Jedi and make them their own. Which Bane rightfully saw as an abomination all of its own, because why are you trying to be like the people that are our enemies? Why are you trying to be like them? That's not what we're here for. The light side and the dark side are not the same thing. So stop trying to be like the light side. And the only way for him to do that was to wipe out everybody, but not by his own hand. Rather, what he did was he gave them the tools to wipe themselves out, so that when the time came, when push came to shove, their greed, their lust for power got the better of them, and they ended up wiping themselves out. He never put a gun to anyone's head. He just said, "Here, if you want to win this war, here's the tools to do it." Now, he didn't necessarily tell them, when you set this thing off, it's taking everybody with you, but you need everybody. But he did make sure to make it a point, like, you all have to be doing this one ritual at the same time to give it maximum effect. So that idea, that concept, I love it. So so when I study Torah, I look at it from the perspective that Bane had when he was learning from the wisdom of the ancient Sith. Though they failed and almost went into complete extinction, he was able to recognize how to integrate the principles that they stood for and merge those principles with the idea of what he later learns to be called the rule of two. So the only way, like I said, the only way for the Sith to really thrive is that there can only be two. If there's too many, the power gets spread out too much. So it has to be consolidated into one vessel. But at the same time, there can't just be one singular vessel, because if that person dies, then there's no more Sith. So there has to be two. There has to be a master and there has to be an apprentice. As it's written, there has to be one to hold the power and then another to crave the power. So once the other Sith were wiped out and it was just Bane, once the other Sith were wiped out and it was only Bane who was left, and the dark side had brought him an apprentice. The idea was, I'm going to teach you everything I know. I'm going to give you just need to observe, pay attention, listen, do what I tell you to do, because I am the master and you are the student. In time, I will have taught you everything that I know. Essentially passing on the tradition, but at the same time, we're not just married to one singular set of rules or one singular set of principles. We're learning as we go. Because just as I'm teaching you, I'm also learning from the dark side. The dark side is guiding me down a path to expand my knowledge so that I can expand your knowledge. But I can't. But there comes a point where I can't teach you anything else. You will be exactly where you need to be, that you are obligated to kill me and then find your own apprentice and then carry the tradition on in that way. With an ultimate goal in mind, and that ultimate goal was the complete annihilation of the Jedi and taking over the Galactic Republic and converting it into a galactic empire ruled by the Sith, which happens 1,000 years later. We are much further along in that plan. So what you have had me been doing is to serve not just as my own Mashiach, my own prophet, my own rabbi, but also as my own patriarch, and realistically, what are you doing to fucking patriarch? My father's dead. I am the patriarch of the clan of Pignataro, of the tribe of Pignataro. So I'm the only one left. My grandmother died. It's only me. So yeah, I get to be my own patriarch as well. I wear the daddy pants now. So what I said to you is I accept the Moses covenant that Moses denied, which was, I'll make you a new nation. Okay, I accept it. I accept. And then I also accept, I told you I also accepted the covenant that you made, that you were trying to make with Jesus through Satan, which is, I'll give you the world. The world's yours if you want it. Yes, I accept it. Because 2,000 years later, we have a way of, we could see things that he couldn't see back then. We have a means of doing things in a way that he was not capable of doing back then. And the same thing with Moses. Because back then, Moses's argument against a new nation was, we literally just left Egypt. We're not even 2 months out. You're already talking about wiping everybody out. If you wipe out the entire nation right now, word's going to get back to Egypt, and it's going to look bad. It's going to look really bad. So let's just work with what we got for now. In today's age, that's okay. We don't need to impress anybody. Like if you and I were having the same conversation, let's put ourselves in this position right now, okay? So I'm taking on the part of Moses, you're gonna be you, and you're gonna say to me, get out of my way and let me smite these dogs, and I'll make you a new nation, a bigger nation. Okay? All right, because we don't have anyone to impress. I'm not in the game. I'm not playing the game for the sake of someone pat me on the back. Hey man, good job. Oh wow, God was really good. No, you know what would really send a message? If you punished your people so hard that everybody has to see it. I'm reminded back a few weeks when we were going over what if Derek was the emperor of the world? What if Derek became president of the United States? How would you bring peace? Well, I would take the Solomon approach. And I would threaten to bomb my own shoot a nuclear bomb at one of my most densely populated cities. As a message to the rest of the world going, if I'm willing to do this to my own country, what do you think I'm willing to do to you? So put your fucking weapons down, everyone kiss and make up, otherwise we're gonna have a real big shit show. And if you think I'm bluffing, here, watch, button push. I wouldn't do it that quick. I'd probably give everybody like a week. All right, you got 1 week. Everyone who's fighting, you got 1 week. This is domestic, civil, international. Everyone who's fighting, you got 1 week. In 8 days, we're gonna reconvene, and I'm gonna live stream me pushing the button. And by the way, I'm closing all the borders so nobody can leave because I'm not telling you exactly which city it's going to be. I believe that some countries would take me serious, some wouldn't. And they would keep doing what they're doing until we reconvene on day 8. After the 7 days, we come back on day 8. 7 full days. And then on the 8th day, go, I fucking told you so. Here you go. Bloop. Now, does anybody else have anything to say? But I like to believe that it wouldn't have to come to that, because just like we learned through Solomon, is that when the two prostitutes came with the one baby, said both of them were fighting over whose baby it was. Get me the sword. I'm gonna cut the baby in half, and then you both get to take a half of the baby home. All right. And then the one woman said, okay. And then the other woman said, no, don't kill the baby. And Solomon said, okay, that's the mother. So that's the line of thinking. But here's the thing, is that had they both said it, all right, go for it. Solomon was going to do it. It's not a bluff. It's more like, I'm going to give you an option, but I'm going to have to be the one to cut the baby in half. I'm sorry, but if you guys can't figure it out on your own, I got it figured out for you. So the perspective I've been taking with my Torah study is that I am the last Jew. Just like Bane was the last Sith. So when I read Torah and I see, and knowing what comes through with the Tanakh, and I know how events go in the Tanakh, the way I see it is that the law, though it was designed for a large community to jump into all at once, the way I see it now is that those teachings have survived, stood the test of time, so that they can come to this point where I put myself in a mindset where I'm the only one left. I'm the only one who's actually doing what you want them to do. I'm the only one actually following your way. So those laws, and again, I'm thinking about, I'm being reminded about the Quran, about the literal and allegorical translations of the holy books. Don't go too far to the left, don't go too far to the right. Don't see it exclusively as allegorical, don't see it exclusively as literal. Combine the two. It'll make more sense that way. Which is how I do things. I didn't learn that from the Quran, but when I saw it in the Quran, that told me, all right, well, this book is a lot more divinely inspired than some people will admit. But the purpose of my Torah study is, again, to learn the wisdom, learn the logic behind all of it, so that I can integrate those things into myself, and I'm just naturally doing it. I'm naturally living my life in such a way that I am obeying and fulfilling every single Torah commandment without even realizing that I'm doing it, because there is the allegorical and literal translations, because sometimes the allegorical translation opens our eyes to a new perspective of a literal form in which that particular mitzvah can manifest itself. So again, going back to the first/last Jew, rather than dumping all the laws onto a massive group of people, we're now dumping the laws on one singular person, because the Torah is teaching us how to build a proper monarchy. So I put myself in the position, the mindset that I am the king. I am the king of Israel. I am Israel. I'm ignoring all geopolitical nonsense, fuckery. From a spiritual perspective, I am Israel, in that I am in a state of Israel, because I wouldn't be able to have this conversation without it. So from me is where everything spreads out like a cancer, but an anti-cancer. I'm not saying this is how it's going to work. I'm not saying this is how it's going to be. I'm just telling you that this is how it is for me. I don't need to go to Israel because Israel is everywhere I am. Again, going back to the literal and allegorical translations and merging them into one, merging the two oceans into one, I believe, easily comprehensive way with a capital W. Comprehensible way. Comprehensible way. Easily comprehensible way. So, from that mindset, I am the king of Israel because I am the only Israelite. I don't know if it's, I suppose it's a genetic thing. That's the way that you make it seem in the Torah, is that it's a genetic thing. So, whatever it is that I needed in order to be able to connect to you the way that we do, and to understand your Torah to the depths that I can. Not just your Torah, but your Gospels and your Quran. That I can make bold-ass claims like that. Yeah, but can you make bold-ass claims like that when there's people looking at you right in front of your face? I don't know. I've never done it before. But that's why we do this here, so that we perfect the art of mass communication, public speaking. So if you scroll back in the timeline of this channel, if you scroll all the motherfucking way back, it's the second video, not the first one, it's the second one. It's a video of me lying in a bed. And I think it's only like 5 minutes long, 15 minutes long, if that. And I explained that I was doing this for this. Oh, I had a dream. I had just woken up from a dream. I was in a room with Patrick Stewart and Charlize Theron. Sir Patrick Stewart, or is it just Patrick Stewart? I don't know. But Patrick Stewart, not that he was in drag, but I remember he was very flamboyant. Is Patrick Stewart a homosexual? I don't know. But I remember in the dream, he was very vivacious. And very animated. And he was expressing to me his love for the art of theater. I forget exactly what Charlize Theron was doing. I know she was there, though. I don't know if she was backing him up, or I think I was listening to Patrick Stewart talk to me about theater and acting. And then I remember looking over at Charlize Theron. That might have like shifted the dream, but I got more into it in that video. And I believe that's the video where I start to explain that I was going to start using this channel as a means for me to get through, to face, to conquer, to integrate, and transmute my fear of public speaking. Which is why I don't necessarily make these videos for anyone. I mean, if you watch them, that's cool. But it's for me. Like a great example of that, I'm thinking about, I'm going back to Masterclass. If you ever see, when I had a Masterclass subscription, there was a Masterclass by Metallica, the band. And I remember Lars, the drummer, they were doing the team. They were doing like a one-on-one with Lars for a minute, and he said, once you start making your art for somebody else, that's not your art anymore. Essentially, and I remember before I saw that, I remember giving similar advice to a friend of mine. Don't make music that you want people to like. Make music that you want to listen to. I remember that after I gave her that advice, she started writing music that she wanted to listen to, and she was blowing herself away, which is exactly what I was trying to impress on her. And it's the same thing with my writing. I don't write for anybody else. I write for myself. I don't ever go back to read what I write. Just like I don't go back and I watch these videos, which is just like Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp doesn't go and watch his movies. He doesn't like to watch his movies. He'll act all fucking day long, but once the job's done, the job's done. I did it because it's the process. How he put it, it's the process of doing it. And the same holds true with what I do, although this isn't acting. I don't act. I like to believe, and my Lord, you can prove me wrong, but I like to believe that this is me all day, every day. And doing this work actually helps with promoting that this is me all day, every day type of thing. I'm remembering, I didn't finish the whole book, but I'm thinking about the book, The King in Yellow. And I believe it's at the beginning of each chapter is an excerpt from this book, which plays a center role in all of the stories. It's like, what are they called? An anthology. So in the anthology collection, that is The King in Yellow, each story kind of revolves around this one book in one way or another. But it's said that the people who read the book, they go crazy. I believe it's chapter 1, but each chapter begins with like a little snippet of this book. And the snippet that's at the beginning of chapter 1, it's a conversation going on between a man. It's either chapter 1 or chapter 2. There's a conversation going on between a man and a woman. And she says to him to take off his mask. And he says, "I'm not wearing a mask." And it sets the woman up. She goes, "No mask! No mask!" As in, holy shit, that's really you? The external mask should be a reflection. Well, there should be no mask, but the way it's coming to me is that the external mask should be a reflection of the inner self. Because the inner self should be reflected by the outer self, the physical self. So it's not about putting on an act, it's about being. It's not about practicing your religion, it's about living it. And when I say religion, I don't necessarily mean Christianity, Judaism, Islam, Hinduism. I'm not saying that. At the end of the Quran, Surah 109, for the unbelievers, it says, You shall not worship what I worship. I shall not worship what you worship. You will never worship what I worship, and I will never worship what you worship. Your life is your religion, and mine is my own. My religion is Derek Hashem, which is in all the Bibles. Jesus mentions it. It's mentioned in the Quran. It's the religion of Abraham and all the prophets, all the patriarchs and the prophets. It's the religion of the kings. It is the one true religion, which is Derek Hashem, the way of God. the only way to fully apprehend what that encapsulates is by way of Torah, the Tanakh, the Gospels, and the Quran. Because each one has what the other ones don't. And when you combine them all, they paint a very large picture over the course of 1,700 years, if we count from the giving of Torah. I mean, we could go back more thousands of years to Adam. The lineage from Abraham to to Adam, which before Abraham was Terah, then his father Nahor, who was the son of Serug, who was the son of Reu, who was the son of Peleg, who was the son of Eber, who was the son of Silah, who was the son of Arpachshad, I might be pronouncing it wrong, who was the son of Shem, who was the son of Noah, who was the son of Lamech, who was the son of Methuselah, who was the son of Enoch, who was the son of Mathaliel, who was the son of Jared, who was the son of Kenan, who was the son of Enosh, who was the son of Seth, who was the son of Adam, who was the son of God. Did I miss any? That should have been all 20 generations. Yeah, but can you go from Abraham to David and David to Jesus? Not yet. How far back can you count yourself? I can count myself back to great-great-grandpa Pignataro. Derek, son of Frank, son of the husband of Aquila. I'm still learning how to pronounce her name. That's great-great-grandma Pignataro. Aquila. Her husband, I don't have her husband's name yet, but I know where he lived, and I know where he was born. So, well, I know where he lived. I know where his son was born. I know where great-grandpa Pignataro was born, which tells me that great-great-grandpa Pignataro shouldn't have been born too much further away. Where was he born? He was born in the Lakewood of Italy, of the peninsula of Italy. I believe in 1857 or 1855 is like the guesstimated when Aquila and her young son Frank came to New Jersey in the early 20th century. They came without the father. I don't know where his father went. I don't know if he stayed behind for one reason or another. I don't know if he was dead. I don't know their reasoning for coming to America. I mean, this was right around, this had to be like either before or after World War I. So maybe they left to escape what was coming. Or what happened. But that's where the Jew comes from. Well, that's where the Jew and the Muslim come from. That's where the Israelite DNA comes from, and that's where the Islamic DNA comes from too, and the Edomite. So I got all the stuff going on. So the idea, so going back now, going back to what? Going back to the rule of two. So my philosophy, the way you showed it to me is, I'm at the very center. unlike Bane's rule of two, where the master is eventually killed by the apprentice who becomes the new master and has to acquire their own apprentice, this is more like a husband and wife thing. Ultimately, because the ancients had to fail so that the teachings could be passed down, so that I can find them and have the idea from you, that you can give me the idea to do exactly what I'm doing. Because I do qualify as a matriarch, so, and from a sense, I do qualify as childless, wifeless. So what I see right now is you're, through the count of Omer, through the work we've been doing over these past 2 years, because I don't have a life. My life is Torah. That's all I do. I haven't worked I haven't worked a regular job since April 24th, 2023, and that was only for 2 weeks. Prior to that, and I wasn't even working for the company, I was helping the company. The last time I had a job as an employee, an official employee, was September 22nd, 2022. And even that wasn't even, not that I wasn't taking it seriously, but it wasn't as serious as everybody else that worked there. The job itself was a hobby. Because I was trying to learn how to conduct business. I was trying to learn sales and business concepts that aren't taught in books. And even that company, I only worked there for a year. And technically I was only supposed to work there for like 3 months, but then I wanted to do a traveling project that required me being a full-time employee, at least a part-time employee. Because I started as a seasonal employee, but in order to do the traveling job I wanted to do, I had to be at least a part-time employee. And then once the traveling job was done, I kind of forgot. I pretty much forgot that it was supposed to be seasonal. So by the time we got to the following summer, I had to be part-time because I made it known, like, I got my own shit going on. Like, this is not my career. I'm not living here. I'm only here temporarily. But somehow I'm fucking here I feel like I'm here every single day. Part-time, but yet I'm working 5 days a week. Predominantly. And eventually it dawned, I'm like, what are you doing? You're not even supposed to be here. And then that's when it was, all right, I'm done. But I was only gone for 3 weeks before the company called me back. I made my last day on the fall equinox of 2022. Why so specific? Because that's how I do things. I do things by the sun and the moon. If I have to schedule something, I always make sure it's by way of the moon or the sun. By the way of the moon and or sun. And symbolically it made more sense. Well, symbolically, allegorically, it made more sense that I end on the fall equinox. But I was only gone for 3 weeks before the company called me back and asked me if I can help them out for a week. They asked me to help them out for a week. 3 weeks most. That 3 weeks turned into 4 months. And then once that project was done, I was pretty much out of there for about a month before they called me back and said, hey, can you do this other thing for us? Only for a week, but a week turned into 2 weeks. Prior to that, prior to even starting with prior to that was because I started there as a seasonal employee in the fall of 2021. But the last time I had a job as an employee, well, I mean, I started my company in 2020 on the Sagittarius first quarter moon in 2020. And that was another thing. And that's what I meant. Like, I have my own thing. Like, I have my own shit. Which made it easier when I was working for Hugo Boss, because it's like, I'm not married to this place. This is a part-time hobby to help me with learning how to be a better businessman. But before that, even before I started the company, before I registered the company, how about that? I registered the company with the state and the federal government in 2020. August of 2020. But prior to that, the last time I was an actual employee was February 2020. And that was just a part-time job that I took as an experiment because at that time I was still doing experiments with my intuition and trusting that any opportunities that came towards me, it was in my best interest to say yes instead of no. So I was out running errands with my mom, and we went to a cosmetology store. And the manager, the manager loved me, and he said, "Go home, fill out the application, and I'll give you a job because I want you to work with me." All right, fuck it. Let me see what happens. If God and the universe are putting this opportunity in front of me, then maybe it'll work out for me. And I was only there for 1 month before COVID hit, but because the United States altered the unemployment laws, I was eligible for COVID relief, which I received for 1.5 years, which is what funded me for the next 1.5 years. But that was the money that I was investing into the business prior to there being an official business. That's the money that I was paying for a lot of the training that I was doing, a lot of the online seminars and workshops that I was taking. It was paying for everything. Books, study time, I was good. Everything was good. And I could recognize, okay, I could see why you needed me to have that job. You had that job offered to me because nobody knew at the time, officially, nobody knew at the time that COVID was going to hit 1 month after I got the job, and then that 1 month was going to be just what I needed in order to qualify for the COVID relief, which would then fund me for the next 1.5 years. And that money is what was going to get me the training and understanding and wisdom and insights that I needed to go to the next fucking level, which was, fuck it. You want to be a business owner so bad, the best way to be a business owner is to fucking start the business. Just do it. If you wait till XYZ criteria, I had this all written down too. It's cool. But if you wait for XYZ criteria to be fulfilled before you do it, you're never gonna do it. So just do it, and this way you're there. And at the same time, the next time somebody ever calls what we're doing a hobby, fuck you. You want my EIN number, motherfucker? I got that shit written down. I don't have it memorized, but maybe I should memorize that. The bonding of endurance. Well, again, going back to what we were saying about the relationship the senses in which we can interpret the word bonding, and how from one particular sense, the word bonding is not much different than the concept of integration. So how much have we integrated within ourselves from that for which we have demonstrated or exercised our endurance with staying committed to? You're feeling me. I know you're feeling. I feel me. So how much of an influence, of a positive influence, has that which you are committed to, that you've been enduring? How much of a positive influence has that had on you in such a way that, like I said, you have essentially bonded with it to the point where you are that thing? This goes back to what I was saying. I don't practice a religion, I live it. I live my religion. I don't always have a goal in mind. I mean, I have goals and I have dreams, but behind all of that, at the very end of the line is God. God who's pulling me, come this way. This is the way you gotta go. And behind me, when I look behind me, I got God behind me going, go that way. Go that way. Because he is the beginning and the end. That's what he says. I am the beginning and the end. Which means that he's at the start of the race and he's at the end of the race. He's also everywhere else all at the same time. The same God that I'm talking to right now, my Lord, I talk to you right now. At the same time that I'm talking to you, you are literally breathing life into the nostrils of Adam. At the same time in the past. But because to you, the past, present, and the future is the same thing. And that is how God is training me how to recognize and observe my own life, which is why we usually take such deep trips into my past so that I can integrate him and bond him into those gaps where it's like, how did I get through that? Because of God. God set the stage. All I did was just read the script. He puts the words in my mouth and I say them. So what he's giving me is the God's eye view of my own life. Because that's the only life that I'm actually responsible for. But now that we have 44 years of experience in order to do that from, right? Are you feeling me? Now that I have 44 years of my own life that I can do that from, I can observe from, in relation to, as an extension of the events that are documented in Torah. Because when you read Torah, you're looking from God's perspective. You're watching this thing play out from the 45,000 foot perspective. So when I say Torah, I say it a lot, but when I say the Torah is an instruction manual, it's an instruction manual on how to observe your own life from the perspective of God. Now my life only encapsulates a small window, but I don't know, when's the last day that what day do I take my last breath? So now taking all of this that I have, right? You see where I'm at. Now moving forward, what do I need to worry about? If he's been there the whole fucking time, if he's been there guiding me along the whole time, these past 47 years, and I couldn't see it, but now I do, what do I have to worry about? I just walk. I could go like this. And just trust that and trust that I don't have nothing to worry about. That everything's going to work out perfectly. Everything that I've been doing over the past 7 years, it's been preparing us for what hasn't happened yet. Presumably, these past 7 years are preparing us for this 7th year, so that in the next round of 7 years, that next 7-year cycle, in that next 7-year cycle, everything that I do is going to be that which could only have been done by someone who has done everything I have done up until this point. By the grace of my Lord. Why did the music stop? Because that song is not downloaded. I don't know why it doesn't just skip. What I'm seeing in my mind, I'm seeing a top-down view of me walking through the woods, but there's like a tether that's coming out of my back. That is my direct link. It's like an umbilical cord. Cut the cord. You don't have to cut the cord with God. You can't, well, technically you can't cut the cord with God. I mean, it's always there. You either choose to accept that it's there or you just ignore it. But whether you like it or not, it's there. I'm being reminded of what we said in last night's video, where I said I wanted Shakima integrated into this, and then there she is. She doesn't look like Miss Kim today. As a matter of fact, not only do I not see Miss Kim, but I kind of see Miss Kim fading away. That's so fucking depressing. Why? Because I wanted to be Miss Kim's dream man. Not just her dream man, but to be the catalyst for Miss Kim to have the life of her dreams. Whatever. It's alright. I love you more than I love Miss Kim, so it doesn't matter. I love myself more than I love Miss Kim. Well, that's going against Torah. So I love Miss Kim the way that I love myself, but I mean, I hate saying it, but I guess she's dead weight. Again, very depressing. Why? Why? Because if you knew all the shit that I had been through with Miss Kim, just on my own personal level, like, that woman has a very integral part. Because Miss Kim taught me how to love myself as much as I love her. Right? You know how, like, you meet someone, some people fall in love with other people, but then those people, they separate and your heart gets broken. Okay? So try to imagine that the reason that that person was cut out of your life was because you were loving them more than you were loving yourself. And that depth and degree of love that you have for that person, your challenge is to redirect that back at yourself. But like Rabbi Jesus said, the way to God is through me. So eventually, by going deep enough into yourself and loving yourself deep enough, the idea is that you'll eventually find God by going within yourself. And when you go deep enough and that newfound love, that intense, hot, fiery coal love that you felt burning in your heart for this other person, once you redirect that at yourself, and it reestablishes your connection with God, then he, in turn, provides you with more and more of what you need in order to keep that fire glowing hot for yourself and ultimately for God. Because as we learned through Solomon, the relationship between the Jew and God, and I would assume that this is possible for non-Jews too, I think. Is it? No. Why? Because we were bred that way. It's in the DNA. It's like dogs. Humans are like dogs to God. It's like how humans breed dogs to have certain characteristics and certain traits. That's how God breeds humans. And some of the dogs are better bred. But you know what I'm being reminded of? I'm being reminded of how long we got on this. I'm being reminded of the final portion of chapter 27 of book 2 of Prior Analytics, which we finished today. Congratulations. Oh my God. Ow. Well, that last portion, Aristotle is detailing how to read signs, and not in the syllogistic way of looking at things, meaning that a sign is kind of like almost like a cause, because of this, then that. So one example that he gave is a sign that a woman is with child is that she produces milk. So the sign of something. So we know this is true because of that. Because this particular attribute, this particular characteristic, this particular way of state of being is predicated on this other thing. So another example he gives, again going back to pregnant women, he says, what the example was, we know this woman is with child because she's pale. Because women that are bearing a child trend to be pale. But now here's the caveat to that. Because that almost implies that any pale woman is pregnant, but that's not true. Oh, that's what he means by convertible. That's what he means, that the two terms have to be convertible. That the first term and the middle term have to be convertible. Oh man, I never thought, okay. That explains a lot. Almost like, and this is just from a general perspective. I'm just using general terms. I know it sounds like I'm being, pregnant women are pale. Pale women are pregnant. That's not true. So they're not convertible. All right. And because they're not convertible, that's why we have to use a second, that's why we have to use the third figure, syllogism, to prove that. Oh, I feel that. That's a breakthrough smile. That's like, oh, dude, that's so awesome. That's so awesome that we figured that out. Thank you, Hashem. I love you too. But in that final portion, he was, the idea was, by way of syllogism, by way of syllogistic logic, syllogistic reasoning, we can essentially judge a book by its cover, in terms of we can recognize the character of a thing based on what features it has. And the example that he was giving was bravery. He was talking about lions. Lions demonstrate a character of bravery. And then the assumption was the feature that predicates the characteristic of bravery comes from large extremities. So then, can we assume that every time we see a lion with large extremities, that it's a brave lion? And vice versa. I say vice versa. But at the same time, does that hold true with other kinds of animals as well? And not necessarily so, but for the case of the point that he was trying to stress. The point that he was trying to stress was that we know the feature that makes way for a characteristic. And I believe what we were doing, we were pretty much generalized. We were learning how to generalize from a more logistical perspective. If a kind of animal has large extremities, then we can say that it's not impossible. That thing, it demonstrates a level of bravery. But then he goes down to break it down even further, like, let's say that we take that same train of thought. The feature of large extremities equates to the character of bravery. And now apply that logic to other kinds of animals. Keeping in mind, taking into consideration that although we may find that feature prevalent in another kind of animal, that doesn't necessarily mean that every member of that particular class, race of animal is going to have that feature. So we can then assume that some will be more brave than others, some will be more cowardly than others, based on the largeness and or smallness of their extremities. Now, when it comes to his teaching, don't take that as the letter of the law. That doesn't mean that just because something has large extremities that it's brave. My father used to say, the bigger they are, the harder they cry when you knock them on their ass. My father wasn't a big man. He was probably I think my father stood to about there. He said the dudes you gotta watch out for are the small ones. The small ones, they don't give a fuck. It's the big ones. Big ones are easy. Because the big guys don't know how to fight. Big guys don't know how to fight because people typically don't want to fight the big guy. So the big guys don't have any experience. It's the little guys that people think they can whoop this little guy's ass, but the little guy's been in more fights than the big guy could even possibly dream of. So the little guy will whoop the ass out of the big guy. And he said, don't ever fight fair. There ain't no such thing as fighting fair. First thing you do, go right for the balls. You go right for the balls, you grab the guy's balls, and you squeeze as hard as you can until you feel the skin oozing out from between your fingers. and you just hold on to it until they pass out. My father, well, today's the 10th. 2 days ago, May 8th. May 8th, that was the 10th anniversary of the day he died. I know he's with you. Well, I know you and him are... Well, I got the message the other day that his divine soul was reintegrated back with you. So... yeah, I feel him. I know my mother... my brother, and I, we went out to dinner for my brother's birthday the other day. On May 8th. And we were laughing. I said, Mommy, what do you think Dad would say if he was alive? If he knew I was a rabbi. My son's a rabbi. She said she said he would laugh his ass off because I can hear him laughing in my head right now. And that cackly witch laugh. My Lord, what would my grandma say? What would Grandma Libby say? Grandma Libby, I'm a Jew. I'm a rabbi. Father Michael, I'm a rabbi. How the hell? Well, you know what? That's a good point. Thank you, Hashem. Well, Grandma Libby, she had a selective hearing. Well, she had shitty hearing to begin with. Like, she couldn't hear nothing. She was basically deaf. Even with her hearing aids in, she couldn't hear shit. But at the same time, we couldn't tell. Sometimes she demonstrated what appeared to be selective hearing, in that she would pretend not to hear things, we thought. So we don't know if she would just intentionally ignore things as if they were never said, or if she really didn't hear them. So it could go either way. But I mean, to be perfectly honest, I don't think she would be able to handle any of this, because she could barely handle what was going on back in 2018. Remember, she cried that one day. Well, she cried because she couldn't do anything for me. She saw I was going through something fucking intense, and she didn't know what to do. Oh. The Yesod Nitzach. The bonding of endurance. I feel like this was good. I'm glad it wasn't as animated as these can sometimes get. My voice feels much better. It sounds better. So what? So tomorrow is the Malkut of Netzach. So that's the embodiment. So today's the bonding. Today's the integration. Tomorrow's the actualization. All right, I like that. Maybe you should write a Homer book. I know. Well, I am. It's just scattered all over the place. The pages are scattered. Oh, no. The Merging of the Two Oceans group on Facebook. That's where all this stuff gets posted. That's where all the writing gets posted too. I mean, that's Mrs. Kim's group, but I'm just a moderator. I'm just there to make sure people behave and say things. I just say things. I write things, and I say things, and I post things. What am I thinking about? Shabbat, 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 Shabbat. That's what I'm thinking about. Because I told Hashem that I wanted to make Shekima a part of today, because I'm supposed to be spending Shabbats with Shekima, but the fuck's a Shekima? Shekima's my Shekinah. It's actually my Shekima song. Well, I'm thinking about what to do now. So I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna upload this. What was I saying? So I just finished prior analytics. Oh my God, I'm so excited. So I have officially completed half of Aristotle's course on logic. We finished, and when I say finish, I transcribe, I write the whole fucking thing out. So it's not like I don't just read it. I write that motherfucker out. And when I first started, I would say for the first 2 books and about 3/4 of the way through the first book of prior analytics, I was only writing 1 sentence down at a time and then unpacking it. And then I'd go to the next sentence and unpack it. But because one of his sentences is like the amount of thought that's compressed within a sentence of that man is enough to fill a book all of its own. So, and I'm not that smart. I'm not a very smart man. So what I have to do is I have to write down 1 sentence, because it slows me down even more, slower than I already am, so that I can properly digest what it is that I'm taking in, so I can make my own connections to it, which is exactly how he says to do it in his second book on logic, which is on interpretation, which basically just says, like, everyone's going to read something a little bit different. 100 people are going to read the same book. You're going to read it all a little bit different, but the point is to trust yourself. Trust that what you feel it means is what it means to you, is what it's supposed to mean to you, is essentially what he says right in the very fucking beginning of the book. Which is good, because that's how I do things anyway. If you have a hard time learning something, it's not necessarily that you're slow or that there's something wrong with you. It's just that that's not what's necessary for you. What that's saying to me is that your inner self is trying to show you a different way of looking at it, but you're kind of stuck on what somebody else is telling you what to look at. But on the inside of your head, you're like, I don't see that. That's not what I'm seeing. I see this. And they say, no, you're wrong. That's not it. It's this. Oh, all right. Then there must be something wrong with me. Yeah, there's something wrong with you. So, what's a Shekinah? Well, Shekinah is my divine my divine feminine. You know when I was lighting the cigarette, I saw what looked like a shadow out of the corner of my eye, and I turned around, but I realized that it was just the rim of my glasses. Right, so I finished Prior Analytics. So fucking excited. So I started working with Aristotle last year under your guidance. You said how was it? Because we were looking into Hellenist Jews. I've been obsessed with Hellenist Jews because I love the idea of integrating Hellenist logic and wisdom, Hellenist logic and philosophy, the principles of Hellenist logic and the principles of Hellenist philosophy, integrating that with the principles of Torah and being a Jew. Because you could use the one to enhance the other. And the reason I got that idea was from Rabbi Philo, who was one of two Hellenist Jews whose works still exist today. So before I started reading Rabbi Philo, I had an idea of what I wanted a Hellenist Jew to be, and he ended up fitting the description perfectly. So I thought it would probably be in my best interest. Because Philo existed, he lived 2,000 years ago. He lived at the same time as Jesus. But he was living in Alexandria, Egypt. And he was one of the scholars from the Great Library. So he studied Aristotle, he studied Plato, he studied Euclid, a bunch of other names that I don't know. And at the exact same time that I was doing that, I have a hardcover copy of Einstein's Special Relativity under my bed that's been sitting there for years. Because I want to read it and I want to understand it. But when I opened up the first page, when you open up to the first to the first essay, he makes a reference to Euclid. And I don't know nothing about Euclid. I don't know nothing about geometry. Well, I mean, I picked a couple things up over the years, but nothing substantial. You know astronomy though. You know geometric astronomy. Yeah, I know, but I didn't learn it from him. But the more that I had learned about Philo, I thought it would be wise if I started studying Plato and Aristotle specifically before attempting... What are you doing? Before attempting to tackle Philo, I thought it might be wise to get the same education that this man had. This way, once I finally start reading him, I understand what the hell he's talking about. And I can see what it is that he's doing by merging those oceans, right? So, I basically sat on the Philo book. It's a collection of all of his writings, but I basically I only just started reading Philo's book shortly, right after Sukkot, I think is when I really started to dive into him. But at that point, I was maybe almost halfway through the first book of Prior Analytics. So it goes categories, categories on interpretation, then Prior Analytics. So once I started working through Philo, I could see the influence because I was familiarized with Aristotle's mode of thinking in such a way that I could recognize the logic and how Philo was applying Aristotelian logic to breaking down the step-by-step minutia of your creation process of the universe, which is fucking amazing. Come on. You know, one fucking day this fucking lighter's gonna die because of all this clicking. Good enough. So last year when I started working with Aristotle, well, at first I started working with Plato. And Plato's hard to read. Plato's hard to read because there's so much going on in each one of those dialogues. Not only is there's so much going on in the dialogue, but the conversation like bounces around so much where it doesn't necessarily end where it began, but it ends exactly where it needs to because of where it began. And sometimes when reading those dialogues, you have to think for... Socrates will say something that you think that he's not even being 100% honest about. He's like, he'll try to goad the people that he's talking to, but in doing so, he kind of catches you off guard too. Because it's clear that sometimes he says things with the intention of getting the person he's talking to think about what they just said and actually get them to question themselves, which then makes you question yourself. You're like, what the fuck am I reading? What the hell is this? How the hell did this guy write this? Because there's times where there's upwards of, I think the most I've seen is 5 people with Socrates all having a conversation, and they're keeping this topic up, and they're contradicting each other at the same time. And it's trying to get into the mind of Plato comes with its own sets of challenges, which makes me wonder if Socrates was even a real guy to begin with, or even, I've considered this, that maybe Plato isn't actually writing this stuff out, but he's actually channeling it. That he's channeling Socrates. In the sense that after the man died, he was tapping into the consciousness